All right, second video. We have a second type of special type of factoring. This is called factoring by grouping. Notice our pain tolerance not too bad. And this one's a little bit different. So we actually have four terms. So we automatically can rule out like a U substitution, right? That would be for three terms, like a trinomial. We have four terms here, right? Notice I can't take any GCFs out of anything. I can't factor an X out of everything, right? So you might say, oh, well, I'm kind of stuck at this point. But every once in a while, you will get a four-termed polynomial, and you can factor it by grouping. And so what you basically want to do is you're just going to group the first two terms, and then you're going to group the second two terms. I usually include the negative sign in there for a reason. That's kind of where the grouping name comes from. And then what I'm doing, and instead of looking for a GCF throughout all four terms, I'm looking for a GCF just in this group, and then maybe in this group too if I can pull it out. So if I look at the first two terms, I'm going to say, well, this one has x squared. They both have x squared in common. So I'm going to pull out x squared, and it's going to leave me with x minus 3, right? Keep in mind, if I just distributed this back through, I'd get the same thing, which is a good check. Now, with the next one, what you're trying to do is match what's inside the parentheses with another group on the right side. And if you didn't get two things to match, then it wouldn't work, which is most of the case. But in this case, it does, right? So if I look at negative x and positive 3, I can factor out a negative 1. And that would leave me with x, and then the plus 3 would turn into a minus 3 because I factored out a negative sign, and then equals 0. And so what I notice about this is that this and this is the exact same thing, which means factoring by grouping is going to work, right? So eventually, you could think of this as, well, you could pull out these x minus 3s into the front. Like, think of this whole thing as a GCF problem, right? What does this term have in common with this term? And they both have x minus 3s in common. So I'm going to pull out x minus 3, and it's going to leave me with x squared minus 1. And then, so basically, like these two things are in common with both terms. So I pull it out, just like we pulled out x squared and negative 1 here. And I'm actually left with something that is in factored form versus standard form, which is how the problem started with, that I can solve for, because I only have two factors. So I set x minus 3 equal to 0. I'll get x equals 3. X squared minus 1 equals 0. I'll get x squared equals 1, and I'll get x equals plus or minus 1 when I take the square root of both sides. So I have three answers, which matches my original degree of 3, which is a great little check. You can certainly plug these numbers in to make sure you get 0 when you plug them back in. But that is, in a nutshell, factoring by grouping. So after this video, you have two questions. You can ignore the instructions on the 7.4 worksheet. It says about possible rational zeros. Just go ahead and solve them, right? One of them is going to be with grouping. One of them is going to be with U substitution. Upload your work there, and you are done.